Welcome to the Point News interviews. It's me, Daria Peak, and today's good to have Joy Dukeson from Ghana. We will
Hi.
go much deeper in his ideas during this conversation and have a talking about military conflicts, anniversary of bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, U.S. presidential election, and much more. So please watch till the end and stay with us. Hello, Joy.
Hello, Daria. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Well, I'm all right. I can't complain. Yeah.
That's good to hear. So let's start our good conversation today. What's the present situation in the Middle East, in your view? What is the likely outcome of the Gaza Strip conflict?
I think since we spoke in November, a lot has changed. The military conflict there has intensified, and there have been a lot more casualties, specifically on the Palestinian side, and things aren't getting any better. The level of destruction there is it's traumatizing for everyone who's seen it, and it's more so for the people in Palestine, because they've been left without a lot of the basic things that human beings need to survive, let alone thrive. And that's not good. It's not good for those going through it directly, and it's not good for people watching. So it's a huge problem, and I don't see there's been calls for a ceasefire since this whole thing started, and it doesn't seem like any of the sides are ready to adhere to a ceasefire. And this is probably being fueled by the fact that the American uh, establishment is feeding the Israeli establishment with billions in dollars worth of weapons. And you can't say that you want a ceasefire when you're sending billions in dollars worth of ammunition to the Israeli state, which is the main problem here. And the last time we spoke, we started out talking about where all of this begins, and we talked about the Nakba. And
Right.
it seems like the Nakba never finished. It's been 75 plus years now, and some historians have said over the past couple of months that what Israel is trying to do is trying to make life impossible for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, so that eventually they are moved to some other part of the world. And this is why it's been labeled as a genocide and ethnic cleansing. And as traumatizing as it is, there is there are people who support what's happening. And while there are people, we've seen all kinds of protest against the genocide and the ethnic cleansing. There have been self-immolations and student encampments across the globe, but that seems not to bother the people in charge, the people who can stop this if they wanted to. So, and with Israel attacking other countries in the region, it's the concern is that this is going to spill over into a full-blown conflict between some of the uh, states in the Middle East, specifically Iran and Hezbollah. The recent attacks have been condemned, but the Americans and the West demanding that Iran not retaliate, which we never know what's going to happen with Iran, whether they're going to attack Israel. There was an attack a couple of months ago, but um, whatever's happened, I don't think things are going well in the Middle East.
Speaking about Iran, could the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh trigger a new round of conflict between Iran and Israel?
Yeah, that can happen, but the thing about these are war games, and they're war games that the West backs. Basically, the Americans and NATO. These are war games that they back, and their backing is manifested in their arming of Israel. So while I think Iran may strike, we still can't really tell until it's happened. They have promised to strike back, but that we're yet to see what they're going to do. But that's possible that they're going to strike.
Why has Turkey officially turned against Israel?
I think that Erdogan and the Turkish establishment are vying for their own positions in the Middle East, and I suppose it's somehow in their interest to dissociate from Israel. And we don't know if this is just a game for them. Of course, it is a game for some of the people involved, but lives are being lost here. And so, like I said before, these are war games, and we're yet to see what's going to happen. We know what's already happening, and it's not good. If there are any more conflicts to add to this, then it's going to be problematic for not just politically but economically as well. So the reason for Turkey's activities they're not completely known now, but we can say that they are uh, vying for their own political interest there. So yeah.
There's been an anniversary of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I think on 6th of August, right?
Yeah, 6th August and then 9th August. Yeah.
Is mankind facing a new nuclear threat? Could it be prevented?
Well, yes, we are facing a nuclear threat, and that threat has been alive since the Second World War. And yes, it can be stopped. The people, the political establishment, aren't ready to stop this. So the threat is going to have to be stopped by, the global working classes. They are the ones who go and fight these wars. They are the ones who put their lives on the line for the political establishment. And they are the ones to stop this. I think the last time we spoke, I mentioned that the French Algerian philosopher Albert Camus wrote an essay a day after and this was published in a paper in France called Combat, and he wrote that we have to reconsider the way we use our technological and scientific achievements instead of using them we have to use them to secure um, our shared humanity, our collective humanity. So, and that still is true. We have all the technological and scientific resources to solve many of our problems, poverty and inequality. But instead of doing that, we're using the technology in warfare. And there are reports that the Israeli state, uses AI to uh, target civilians, and the phantasmagoria of Hamas. So this is the concern, that instead of using our technological and scientific achievements for the for to secure our basic uh, common humanity, we're using it to destroy humanity. And this this can only be stopped, like I said earlier, by the global working classes of the world have to organize and fight the class war, instead of fighting, the the conflicts of the ruling classes. There's a popular saying in socialist and anarchist spaces that there's no war but the class war. And this is what has to be fought: the class war, the economic war, not the wars that lead to killing each other in the name of the profit of a few people in charge of the global capitalist establishment. So the working classes of the world have to unite, and they have to fight the class struggle, the class struggle. They have to make demands of the ruling class. And that's the only way to stop the nuclear threat and the current rise of fascism. So yeah, the working classes have to unite to fight the class war, instead of the wars of the ruling classes. That's that.
I'll add to that an expression that if we won't end wars, wars will end us. And that's
Yeah.
kind of true. Let's talk about US presidential election. It'll take place in November.
Yeah.
Tell me, in your view, what are the chances that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris would win?
The current situation in the US is that according to polls, Kamala Harris is leading Donald Trump, and both campaigns are similar. They're not promising any real change in the economic situation of the working classes in the US. While Donald Trump's base is promoting the so-called white working classes, which we know is a lie. Kamala Harris is talking about, preventing the destruction of democracy in America, which is, also a lot are engaged in a spectacle. And it doesn't matter who wins. The economic situation in the US is not going to change. Kamala Harris's campaign hasn't put forward any policy solutions to the problems in America. And the economic situation isn't getting any better. Things are getting worse for poor Americans, whether they are black or white or Latino, whatever color they are. The working classes in America are struggling. And inflation, the current capitalist crisis, which has resulted in the so-called uh, cost of living crisis, which is affecting everybody across the globe, isn't stopping. And um, last night, Kamala Harris spoke about strengthening America's war machine, which was a bit like the old fascist conversation about endless wars. And some commentators thought that Kamala Harris's message was more fascistic than, what Donald Trump has been talking about over the past uh, um, uh, since 2016, was almost 10 years now. So there isn't going to be a change in the political economy of the world, regardless of who wins. Global capitalism is going to keep on going, crisis after crisis, unless the working classes in America take a stand and fight the class war. I mean, there have been strikes across the globe since the intensification of inflation and the so-called cost of living crisis. There have been strikes. Even here in Ghana, there have been strikes by workers' unions, but they haven't resulted in any true reforms. And so the working class organizations across the globe have to be more militant in their demands if there is going to be any reforms, let alone revolution in politics and economics. They have to make more militant demands of the ruling elites everywhere, because global capitalism is in a state that's been described by some historians and political analysts as a permanent crisis. Since 2008, since the meltdown of 2008, the world economic system hasn't really recovered. There's been a lot of um, money being pumped into the system, but that money goes up to the owners of money, the capitalists. And that's not going to stop until capitalism is stopped by the working classes. So the situation in the US, uh, Donald Trump has labeled Kamala Harris as a communist and the Democratic Party as a party of socialist and communist and anarchist. But that's just a ridiculous story. And he's using that because most Americans have been propagandized into thinking that communism, socialism, anarchy are bad ideas that are after freedoms, when this is not the case. These are ideas that have been that have been in line with the struggle for freedom since for the past 200 years. So I think most Americans are misinformed, and this has been a historic. It's deliberate, and we know this. A lot of books have been written about, how consent in America is manufactured to benefit the ruling classes, from conspiracy theories about COVID to 5G networks. So there's a problem in America. That's a global problem because America is the current world hegemon. Whatever they do is copied in most countries. And this is the problem the world faces right now. American imperialism. And all empires throughout recorded history since the inception of class society, all empires have been evil, from the Athenian Empire, which proclaimed itself to be democratic, while attacking city-states around the Greek political economy. Um, the Peloponnesian War and all that. Inception of empires. Empires have been cruel and brutal institutions, but the American Empire, which succeeded the British Empire, is probably the most brutal. And last night, Kamala Harris promised that she was going to strengthen that. And so there's no end in sight unless the working class stop this. The global working class, starting with the American working class, they have to stop this. The capitalist, imperialist powers of the world. So yeah, there's no end in sight. It's basically pointless. Whoever wins, America is going to continue bombing, wherever they want to bomb and supporting unnecessary wars and war games. All of this benefits so-called industrial complex. So the global working class have to stop this. They're the only ones who can stop this.
What do you have in mind about Donald Trump's assassination?
So when it happened, I think the first thought was that, well, I mean, it could be real, but some people have said that it was staged. And this is all part of the capitalist spectacle. You know, to say that Trump is some kind of hero, and therefore the so-called liberal or democratic establishment would like to have him killed or assassinated. That's just, a nonsense story. And what the reports is that says that the guy who tried to assassinate Donald Trump was actually a member of the Republican Party. So, it's all a spectacle. It was basically an orchestration of, the Trump campaign. At least that's what the people who are close to events in America have said about it. It's all a spectacle. It's not a real assassination attempt. Yeah. So, it's a nonsense story.
I saw they made t-shirts with a photo where Donald Trump's assassinated. Um, Actually, yeah, it seems like it's just a game with people's emotions. It
Yeah.
seems like it. But there's a lot of facts that are showing us and make us think that it's really staged.
Yeah.
Um, okay, in the end of our conversation, I have a few more questions. Global military conflicts are an important component of society, or will wars come to an end and politicians manage all conflict situations diplomatically? Or we can't live without military conflict, and it's just
So,
supposed to be like that.
no, I don't think it's supposed to be like that. I think so a lot of this is basically I was reading an article by William I. Robinson I think 3 days ago, and a lot of the war games and the military conflicts in the world, especially the ones propped up by American imperialism, are basically a distraction from the real economic war that's going on. The growing inequality in the world, economic inequality, is the real war. And that's the war that we are being distracted from through these military incursions that are going on in the world right now. Oxfam International have been putting out studies about growing inequality in the world for a couple of years now. And I think about 4 years or 5 years ago, they reported that a handful, literally a handful of people, individuals in the world, capitalists basically, own as much wealth as the poorest 4 billion people across the globe. And there are about let's say 3,000 billionaires and some maybe 1 million or 2 millionaires across the globe. And this is where the war really is. This is the class war. The fact that global capitalism basically involves the accumulation of wealth for a few people, and this results in the pauperization of masses of people across. And whenever the global capitalist crisis is deepened or heightened, the the ruling apparatus seems to think that the best way for the class war to be diverted is to distract the commoners of the world with a war. And one of these wars is the current Russia-Ukraine conflict, which by all but by all reported historical evidence is being facilitated by NATO. And a couple of weeks or just a couple of days ago, America said that it supplied, not said, it supplied Ukraine with billions of dollars in weaponry. So instead of using the wealth of society to solve problems of poverty and economic and political inequality, we are being forced to witness this wealth being used to create military conflict. And that's all there is to this. All of the military conflicts in the world are capitalist in nature, they're imperialist in nature. And they only benefit a select few of the global elites, especially those in the weapons manufacturing industry, the so-called military industrial complex. We have whenever there's a threat of war, the war games, military hardware company stocks go up Wall Street. So this is what we're faced with. All the military conflicts are a distraction from the class conflict that the working classes of the world have to invest their time in fighting. And no, society doesn't embroiled in unnecessary military conflicts. There's a way out of this. And basically, all wars are a product of class war, like I said before. So if the global working classes fight the class war, there's no need for military conflict, right? The only way out is the resolution of the class war, the global class war. That's the only way to resolve military conflict. And Marx and Engels write about this in their the theory of how societies develop. the historical development of societies, according to Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. They postulate that when we put an end to the class war, there wouldn't be a need for military wars. Right? This is the historical dialectic, and this is the historical uh, uh, historical fate of the working classes. Only the working classes can put an end to the class war and military conflict. So until that happens, yes, there will be a military conflict. I think at the end of the Cold War, in the early 90s, American conservative liberal theorist Francis Fukuyama wrote a book. It was first an essay that was published in 1989 called oh, The End of History and the Last Man. And in it, he claimed that the end of the USSR signaled an history. The theory of the end of history is basically a Hegelian theory, and it basically postulates that a historical period in which all of the political and economic contradictions in world historical movement have been resolved will lead to an end of history, not necessarily an end of human history, but an end in political and economic theories. But what happened with the USSR was not the end of, of the contradictions in the world. And truly, the most important contradiction in the world right now is the contradiction between the working class and the ruling class, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So until that conflict is resolved, a military conflict, but there's no need for there's no need for those military conflict, because we are in a stage of history where we have the scientific and technological means to end poverty and all kinds of inequality. There's no need for any of this, but I suppose the ruling elites do not want to lose their power, so they have to create distractions, and a core part of the distraction is military conflict. So yeah, society doesn't need to be embroiled in military conflict. It's a product of the class character of society. So when the classes are abolished, there's no need for military conflict. Yeah.
Thank you, Joy, for this deep conversation. In the end of it, maybe you would like to wish something for all human beings.
Well, I think we have a shared humanity, and the current economic crisis, which is a problem of the capitalist crisis, it's also it's the same crisis that has resulted in the climate crisis. So until we solve the capitalist, problem of greed, people say that greed is a facet of human nature, but greed is the object of capitalism. Yes, greed may be a facet of human nature, but the main objective of the capitalist system, the capitalist jurisprudence, is greed. If we are to get rid of the so-called greed, we have to get rid of capitalism. And the only way to get rid of capitalism is if the working classes come to a realization that that we have the power to end both the military wars and the class war that result in the pauperization of the immense majority of society. And what's going on in Palestine uh, is part, is a feature of this problem. There is hope amidst all this hopelessness. The student encampments that try to put a dent in American imperialism, well, it has to be intensified, and it has to be uh, manifested in the class struggle. Working class organizations, workers' unions have to take up the fight. If workers across the globe go on strike to say that what's happening in Palestine, the traumatizing events going on in Palestine, should be stopped, it will end. Workers in America have to go on strike to demand that the American state stop funding Israeli state. They have to stop sending arms to Israel. A couple of days ago, they were sent 20 billion in arms to kill, Palestinians. Children of Palestinian the children of Palestine have gone through a traumatizing event that I don't think any group of people in the world can go through without breaking. And the other military conflicts in Sudan and Ethiopia and other parts of the world can only come to an end if the global working class understands that they have the power to stop this. If workers go on strike and make demands that all of this ends, it ends. This is the power of the workers of the world. This is why Karl Marx and Frederick Engels proclaimed that all workers of the world must unite. So this is the message to the people of the world. The people of the world have to understand that there is no black race or white race or yellow race, red race. It's all nonsense that was created by capitalism. There's only one human race. There's only one race, and that's the human race. The fact that there are different shades in skin complexion and pigmentation, that is an accident. It is an accident that I was born in Ghana. It's an accident that you were born in America or wherever. So we have to understand that we are one people, and the earth is one. All those false borders and passports, we have to get rid of them and unite to stop the war on the poor and the war on all of the children of the world. So that's the message I have.
Thank you, Joy. That's a really good point. I do agree. I think we're all brothers and sisters, and we have to stand together and fight for peace. Thanks,
Yeah.
and have a good day.
Yeah. You have a good day as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.